Olympic Games, according to a press release from the Presidency of the Republic. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Mr. Majid Tebboune, President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, is today chairing a meeting of the Council of Ministers devoted to a draft law on the organization and development of physical and sporting activities and two presentations on the role of the Algeria Post establishment in supervising the widespread use of financial services and electronic payment, the strategy for using water from wastewater treatment plants for agricultural irrigation and industry, and preparations for the 2024 Olympic Games, added the press release. In ministerial activity, the Minister of National Education, Abdel Hakim Belabed, has insisted on strict monitoring of the professional exams scheduled for July 10th, while ensuring the implementation of legal procedures related to the integrity of these exams, according to a ministry press release. Miriam Zian has more in this report.
Mr. Belabed chaired a national conference by video conference attended by executives from the Central Administration and Directors of Education, devoted to the study of several points. At the conference, the minister spoke about the professional examinations scheduled for 10 July, stressing the need to formally notify all those concerned without exception. He also stressed the need to pay particular attention to the minutes of the technical committees and to make good use of them to avoid any errors. Mr. Belabed also stressed the need for strict monitoring of the conduct of examinations while ensuring the application of legal procedures relating to the integrity of examinations and competitive examinations with a view to meeting all the conditions of transparency, integrity, and impartiality. The agenda for the conference included the transfer of teachers, and to this end, explanations were provided on the remaining details of this operation, namely the submission of the movement of schedules, which are extracted from the digital platform, to the joint administrative committees, and the drafting of transfer decisions to be given to those concerned when the exit minutes are signed on for July 2023. The conference also discussed preparations for the operation to fill vacant posts allocated to graduates of teacher training colleges, as well as the recruitment of physical education and sport and English teachers in a primary cycle. In addition to monitoring the progress of admission and guidance councils in the first year of general and technological secondary education.
In other news, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development announced in a press release that a preventive and anticipatory plan to combat the plague of locusts would come into force in July, providing for the mobilization of all the necessary material and human resources. Miriam Zian again.
This operation plan involves the mobilization of all material and human resources from July onwards, through the use of intervention resources from all the countries in the West African region and specialized technicians from the locust control units of the countries concerned, in order to strengthen the surveillance system currently in place to monitor locust movements in the Sahel countries, particularly in Mauritania, the press release states. This measure to prevent and combat the locust phenomenon, which could increase during the summer breeding season in Sahelian countries, was approved at the meeting held last June in Oran by the Commission for Locust Control in the Western Zone, currently chaired by Algeria and attended by 10 member countries according to the ministry. With a view to implementing the Commission's decisions, Algeria will endeavor to support the action plan by sending experienced explorers in July to carry out surveillance and treatment operations in the summer breeding areas in Mauritania. In addition, following the invasion of small swarms of locusts across the country's southwestern borders on May 19, the ministry's departments, represented by the National Plant Protection Institute, mobilized all human and material resources to deal with this plague according to the same source. In this context, the ministry reported that over 2,500 hectares in Tindouf, Bashar and Adrar had been treated, noting the mobilization of water and lorries, as well as airborne resources mobilized by the Service of the Ministry of National Defense. The operation enabled all the locust groups tracked down to be completely treated by the competent teams.
Other news, young Nahel, who was shot dead by a police officer in Nanterre on Tuesday, June 27th, was laid to rest early Saturday afternoon in Mont Valérien Cemetery, west of Paris, in a climate of sadness and tension. Nahel's funeral took place at the Mont Valérien Cemetery in Nanterre, in the Hauts-de-Seine department, where he was originally from. Many people came to pay their respect to the young man who was killed on Tuesday by a police officer during a roadside check. The killing sparked a wave of emotion across the country in France, followed by 4 nights of rioting and protests in many French cities. Prayers were held at the Ibn Badis Mosque before his burial in the same town. Saturday will be a day of recollection for Nahel's family, said the deceased family lawyer in an early statement, stressing the importance of giving bereaved families the privacy and respect they need during this ordeal. In other news and concerning Palestine, the United Kingdom, Austria, and Canada have called on the Israeli government to reconsider its plan aimed at setting up new Jewish settlements, saying that the move constituted an obstacle to peace. William Ziad has more in this report.
In a joint communiqué, the foreign ministers of the 3 countries recalled that the expansion of the Jewish settlements were affecting negatively the efforts aimed at reaching a negotiated 2-state solution. Israel's construction plan was condemned by the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres as a blatant violation of international law and relevant resolutions. Last week, the Israeli government gave its go-ahead to the construction of 5,623 new housing units in the West Bank. Meanwhile, the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories was at the center of a telephone conversation between Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. On the occasion, President Putin reiterated Russia's support to the Palestinian people's fight for freedom and aspirations for the setting up of an independent Palestinian state with occupied Jerusalem as its capital. This came as scores of Jewish settlers today assaulted the Al-Aqsa Esplanade amid a reinforcement of security imposed by the Israeli authorities on the Palestinian population in occupied Jerusalem. The incursions carried out by the Jewish settlers allegedly to carry out religious rituals are denounced by the Palestinians as a provocation. 3 Palestinians were arrested during an operation carried out today by the Israeli soldiers in various towns of the West Bank, including occupied Jerusalem. The news agency Wafa stressed that the operation also targeted the town of Hebron. In another development, the head of the Commission of the Detainees and former detainees of the PLO, Qadri Abu Bakr, had died in a car accident in Salfit, in the northern part of the country.
In other news, the Polisario Front delegation is taking part in the 26th Sao Paulo Forum, Brazil, which is being held for the first time after a 4-year hiatus due to COVID-19. The largest regional meeting, which brings together political parties, social movements, and progressive and left-wing organizations from Latin America and the Caribbean, is taking place from the 29th of June to the 2nd of July, following its 2 working groups meeting held respectively in Caracas in November 2022 and Bogota in April 2023 under the slogan Advancing Integration, Advancing the Sovereignty of Latin America and the Caribbean, reported Sahrawi Press Agency SBS. The event, which was inaugurated in the presence of the President of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, brought together representatives from 27 countries, including a delegation from the Polisario Front of Western Sahara. In other news and concerning Mali, the Secretary-General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has said that he takes note of the Security Council's decision to end the mandate of the United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, MINUSMA, and reiterated the importance of the 2015 Agreement for Peace and Reconciliation, which emerged from the Algiers process. William Ziad has the details in this report.
The Secretary-General takes note of Resolution 2690, by which the Security Council decided to end the mandate of MINUSMA as of 30 June 2023 and to supervise its withdrawal by 31 December 2023. at the request of the transitional government of Mali, said a statement released on Friday by Mr. Guterres' spokesperson. The Secretary-General recalls the importance of the 2015 Agreement for Peace and Reconciliation in Mali, which emerged from the Algiers process, and urges all signatory parties to continue to honor the ceasefire as MINUSMA withdraws. Mr. Guterres also reaffirmed the United Nations solidarity with the Malian people and authorities in all the hardships their country has suffered. He will continue to engage with the transitional government of Mali on how best to serve the interests of the Malian people in cooperation with the UN country team in Mali, the UN Office for West Africa and the Sahel, and other partners, according to the spokesperson. On Friday, the UN Security Council put an immediate end to the peacekeeping mission of the Blue Helmets in Mali, a withdrawal called for by Bamako that will take place over 6 months. The resolution, which was adopted unanimously, put an end to MINUSMA's mandate as of 30 June and stipulates that as of 1 July, the Blue Helmets will cease their activities in order to organize their departure.
In the latest on Sudan, violent fighting today continued in Khartoum between the government forces and the rapid support paramilitary forces. The tense fighting involving heavy weaponry continued to hit other areas of the country, including the Darfur region bordering Chad. In this respect, the United Nations recently warned that the clashes were taking an ethnic dimension that could lead to crimes against humanity. About 3,000 people have been killed, and 2.8 million others were displaced during the conflict which broke out 2 months ago. You are still tuned to Radio Alger International, and now I invite you to listen to the second part of our edition with 2 timely broadcasts on schedule. I wish you fun listening.
Hello and good to have you with us in our program devoted to Algerian figures and personalities who marked history, notably in arts. Today we shed light on talented Algerian artist Mohamed Rassim, the founder of the School of Miniature Painting that still exists in Algeria today. Visitors to Algiers art museums, such as the magnificent National Gallery of Fine Arts in Algiers, are likely to come across the works of Mohamed Rassim. In Algeria and perhaps in most parts of the world, we cannot think of the past century's art of miniature without mentioning him, the father of Algerian miniature painter and calligrapher. In addition to being an accomplished artist, Mohamed Rassim was known for using his art to promote pride in his fellow Algerians and to encourage them to pursue independence during the time when the country was French territory. Born in Algiers on the 24th of June, 1896, Mohamed Rassim was born into an artist's family, and his talent for drawing was revealed during his primary school education when he was given the task of copying decorative Islamic motifs during a state workshop organized by the then French Governor-General of Algeria, Charles Jonnart. Originally of Turkish descent, the family's property was confiscated by the French regime. Undaunted, Rassim's father established a copper working and wood carving workshop in the Casbah of Algiers. There, his brother, Omar Rassim, carried out the engraving of decorative tombstones, which led to the family being commissioned to embellish public buildings during French colonial rule. Rassim enjoyed traveling around the world, notably to enrich his style by the history of miniature. He visited Paris, Cordoba, and Granada, where the art of miniature was flourishing. He then went to Rome, Vienna, Bucharest, and Stockholm, where he exhibited some of his works. At the Museum Gallieni in Paris, he had his first exhibition. The public showed enthusiasm, and the art critics praised his work, thus gaining international fame. Besides teaching at the school he founded, Rasim worked with commissions to safeguard the historic sites and monuments, notably the Casbah of Algiers listed as World Heritage by the UNESCO. Upon discovering miniature paintings created by Persian, Mughal and Andalusian artists for Muslim nobility, Rasim embraced his style of painting, adding his own artistic expression, including traditional motifs and calligraphic forms. During his teenage years, Rasim came in contact and befriended French Orientalist painter Nasreddin Dine, who encouraged his talent and assisted him in obtaining commissions to embellish books with his superbly crafted calligraphic plates. His ability to artistically recreate an era prior to the arrival of the French colonists made Mohammed Rasim a prominent figure in the Algerian culture. In his works, the people of Algeria are depicted in fine clothing and are engaged in cultural activities, indicating a high level of prosperity, which some critics saw as a suggestion that these were lost when the French arrived. However, Rasim was known to acknowledge that his work had come about because of the presence of the French in Algeria. Whatever his motivation or the interpretation of his work by others, Mohammed Rasim's artistic talent is clearly evident in his work. It's worth mentioning that Rasim made the ornamentations of several of his friend Nasreddin Etienne Dine's books, including Muhammad's Life. He also created the decorations of Mardus' Arabian Nights, very famous, and Mohammed Rasim received several awards, such as a scholarship from La Casa de Velázquez, the gold medal from the Society of French Orientalist Painters, and the Grand Prix Artistique of Algeria. He taught at the School of Fine Arts of Algiers and was an honorary member of the Royal Society of Miniature Painters, Sculptors, and Gravers. And after Algeria's independence, he became an advisor to the Minister of Culture. Rasim's miniatures depict the Algerian society and people before the French colonization, and the people are shown to be prosperous, wearing fine costumes. Mohammed Rasim and his Swedish wife, Karine Bonson, were assassinated in El Biar in 1975. The crime hasn't been solved as of today. The work of Mohammed Rasim has been compiled in La Vie Musulmane d'hier, or Yesterday's Muslim Life, in 1960, and Mohammed Rasim, the Algerian miniaturist, in 1972.
With the Regency of Algiers as its principal center, the Ottoman Empire ruled an area referred to as Ottoman Algeria in the Maghreb between 1525 and the French invasion of Algiers in 1830. The Regency of Algiers was established by Ottoman Turkish Admiral Hayreddin Barbarossa in around 1525, when he captured the city of Algiers, which soon became the base from which the Ottoman Empire attacked European shipping in the Mediterranean in acts of piracy. In capturing Algiers, the Ottoman Empire drove out the Hafsid and Zianid dynasties as well as any Spanish forces in the North African region under its control. With 2,000 Turkish troops and artillery supplied by the Ottomans, Algiers became the base of military operations against Spain and Morocco. The Ottoman Empire secured their presence in the Maghreb with an administration in Algiers under appointed pashas or governors with 3-year terms of office. At this time, the main source of revenue for the Regency of Algiers was from piracy, with Catholic shipping being the main target and the Christians captured being sold as slaves. The continued piracy on European and later American ships led to repeated attacks on Algiers by Spain, Denmark, France and England, with the invasion by the French in 1830 eventually bringing the Ottoman rule of Algiers to an end. The French ruled for 132 years before Algeria gained independence in 1962. Known in folk legends as Barbarossa, meaning red beard in Italian, Arouj was an Ottoman governor of Algiers and the chief governor of the Western Mediterranean region. He became known as Baba Arouj, meaning Father Arouj, for the role he played in transporting large numbers of refugee Moriscos from Spain to Ottoman Empire governed lands in North Africa, including Algeria and Tunisia, with some settling in Morocco. Morisco, meaning Moorish, was the term used at the time to describe inhabitants of Spain and Portugal who had converted from Catholicism to Islam. While historians differ somewhat on the ancestry of Arouj, whether he was of Greek, Turkish or Albanian origin, it was known that he was born in 1474 on the island of Midilli in the Ottoman Empire, modern-day Lesbos in Greece. His father was Yakub Aga, a Turkish feudal cavalry knight who participated in the conquest of Midilli by the Ottomans against the Genoese in 1462. As a reward, he was given control of a village in the island. He married a local woman named Katerina and produced 4 sons and 2 daughters. Arouj was the first of the sons to take to the seas and was later followed by his younger brothers, who all became privateers on the Mediterranean seas. The profession Arouj had chosen presented many challenges, which he proved adept at overcoming. These included conflicts with the Knights of St. John, who threatened the shipping trade of the Ottoman Empire. One of the brothers, Ilyas, was killed in a skirmish with the Knights of St. John. By 1516, the remaining 3 brothers played a role in the liberation of Gigel and Algiers from the control of the Spanish. Upon taking control of the region, Arouj declared himself to be the new Sultan of Algiers and immediately started to conquer inland territories, becoming renowned for his innovative manner of moving cannons through the Saharan desert by attaching sails to them. Among the Algerian towns conquered by Arouj and his forces were Miliena, Medea, and Tunis. Realizing that his newly claimed territory would be difficult to defend against Spanish forces, Arouj offered Algiers to the Ottoman Sultan. Upon accepting his offer, the Sultan appointed Arouj as the governor of Algiers and chief governor of the West Mediterranean, with the backing of the mighty Ottoman Empire. However, the Spanish forces were not easily deterred and prepared to attack Arouj via land. Learning of the plans for invasion, Arouj moved to attack Spanish-held Tlemcen, succeeding in capturing the city in 1517. With a force of 10,000 soldiers and thousands of Bedouins, the Spanish retaliated, taking Tlemcen after a 20-day battle in which Arruj and many of his Turkish and Moorish soldiers lost their lives.
إذاعة الجزائر الدولية